let's focus up here, please.
Now, you can hear me? Okay. All right. I've listened to all of this, and there's some good things, some points, and some bad points. What I think, instead of the government taking over our health care, why not fix what's wrong with the health care we have now?
Right.
Fix that instead of going and making another law. Not so many things in it that we don't know what it is, the Congress people don't know what it is, and why would you vote for something that you don't understand? And who wrote this? I thought that we elected our officials to go there and make these laws, write these laws. But if you don't write it, you don't understand what's in it, then I don't see how you can vote for it. Fix the health system that is we have now. Keep the government out of our lives.
Yeah.
Right now, enough. We don't need any more control of what we control of our health care or anything else. Fix what's wrong with our present health care. You don't have to have a 13 or 14 or 1,500 page bill that nobody can understand and to be foisted on the people here in America. And as an individual, we have a responsibility to insure ourselves. I know there's some people that can't do that. Well, fix the present system that everybody can be covered. Don't go putting another in place. And I know another way that you could help people get insurance instead of trying to pass this bill nobody wants. How about using some of that stimulus money instead of pork barrel spending? Use it to create jobs, and I mean meaningful jobs, not this pork barrel stuff that you
we got turtles
or frogs or whatever say them. Create real jobs where people can go to work and they'll have the money to pay for their insurance. And as far as this pre-existing things, I was in a manufacturing job that we had, that you couldn't get on the insurance for after so long a time. Why not do that now? You've got a pre-existing condition after a year or two, then the insurance companies pick it up and cover you then. We don't need more government intrusion in our lives.
I also think, because I know it came up in some of the whispers, just so people know, it is a litmus test for me. I will not support any health care bill that includes federal funding for abortions. I don't think I would also say the current draft does not meet that litmus test. And so there is work to be done that would be necessary for me to get there. Which I guess goes to the part of the third lady's question about why would I vote for this. Well, I'm a no on the bill right now. And I actually helped lead a lot of the freshmen to block the efforts to vote on this thing in July. I thought it was too fast. I didn't think it had met my litmus test and the litmus test that many of the freshmen had run on of trying to bring actually bending the cost curve of the deficit over time and trying to get some of that relief to middle-class families and small business owners. So it was very important to me that this didn't happen in July. And I know some people say, well, we've been fighting for this for 20 years. There was a mandate from the election. We've got to get this right if we're going to do it. So I am a no, but I am I want to be very upfront. I really want to get to yes on this bill. I really am unhappy with the status quo. I think the costs, the skyrocketing costs are really harming our middle-class families and our business owners. And if you look at the federal deficit that I think almost everyone here shares a concern about, if you look at the outlays in the federal budget, if we're not going to cut defense, and I don't think we can right now because there are a whole lot of people who are out to get us, then the biggest outlays in growth are Medicare, Medicaid, and VA health benefits. And some of that is the number of people coming in, but the bigger part is the cost per person. So if we can figure out a way to use competition and other things to get the cost down, that is absolutely a good step in the right direction for the federal deficit. If we can't, the last thing we can afford right now is more of that. So in terms of the question about why not fix what we have, I actually think that is a big part of what's being done here. If you look at one of the problems we face, in addition to the costs we've talked about, we're going to have about a 45,000 doctor shortfall of primary care doctors over the next 10 years. So what's happened? Well, you know, the problem in Europe and Canada and these other countries is that they put a lot into primary and preventative care, and they have very little specialty care. They sort of choke that out at the top. Well, we've kind of started to invert that, where we have unbelievable specialty care. It doesn't mean you might not get left on, you know, have someone deny you that care or have to wait, but we have really good specialty care, by far the best in the world. But we've been choking out primary care and preventative care. You're seeing fewer and fewer doctors. We're talking to doctors last night in Campbell County and Brookneal and how much trouble they're having recruiting young doctors to come out to a place like Brookneal. Well, part of that is because we don't pay for primary care and wellness care. Whether that's under, frankly, the Medicare, Medicaid, or the private insurance. And here's one of the problems. It used to be that people were probably going to be on the same insurance for 30 or 40 years and working for the same company for 30 or 40 years. So that insurance company had a vested interest in your wellness. Well, now they assume you're going to be bouncing between different insurance companies. So their incentive is to make sure you find out you're sick when you're on someone else's insurance. Now, I'm not saying that's evil of them. It's just the reality of the business model we're in right now. That's why the Safeway Corporation model is different. Safeway's been getting lots of accolades for good reason because they looked and they saw how many missed work days people had because of wellness issues, and they started to incent good behavior. You lose a little weight, you do this and the other, you play a little less on premiums. Their missed work days plummeted. Their premiums also dropped because they started to have a healthier and healthier workforce. So that's more of that traditional model because the company itself has the best interest. So again, part of the issue here is trying to make it so that the insurance companies will profit from your health instead of from you simply rolling off of their insurance. And I think the issue of trying to de-link or provide an option where losing your job doesn't mean losing your health insurance because you can go to the exchange to purchase it is part of getting those incentives right. Same thing with Medicare. One of the problems, biggest problems there is obviously the cost of prescription drugs. There was a hard-fought battle that in the House version, the Friday before we left, to finally get the ability for Medicare to negotiate cheaper drug rates, which I think was crazy. That wasn't in the original bill. I think it had everything to do with special interest groups, closing the donut hole, and bringing those rates down in the way the VA negotiates and pays 50% less for a lot of drugs. I think just from a fiscal responsibility standpoint, that makes sense. The stimulus issue. The stimulus, about 40% of the stimulus is tax cuts. Those tax cuts are trickling out on the schedule. They are on time. You may like them, you may not. They're $18 more in every paycheck. You may think that was a dumb way to do it or not. They're on schedule. That money is going out in the economy. There was forward depreciation for small business. There's tuition tax credit that I wrote to help people go to community college and other places during this time. That part is on schedule. The other another 40% of it was basically money out to states and localities. And the idea was before they had to do their state budgets in January or February, where they were going to either have to do major slashing of programs or raising of taxes. That moved in particular, a lot of the shortfalls on education funding and some of the infrastructure funding. All 40% of that is either out the door or on schedule by formula so that people can plan around it. The remaining 20% is the smart grid technology, the broadband, everything else. Some of those programs are moving very well, others are not. Rural development in Virginia got about $300 million. They've already moved over $200 million in projects, tens of millions of which have come to Southern Virginia. The broadband, which I know is very important, that competitive grant process went through August 14th. So a lot of these programs are moving forward. I do think we were on the verge of a complete economic collapse in January. My votes have tended to be almost all deficit neutral except for the stimulus vote, and I will take a hit on that. I voted against the president's budget. I voted for both Republican and Democratic pay-go legislation to pay for things as you go along. I voted against the bailouts. I did think the stimulus is a one-time, basically lifeline, mainly to states and localities, was important to do to prevent a collapse. People are welcome to disagree with that, so we'll do three more.